Welcome to today's lesson. Previously, we've been looking at the water cycle, and in the process of looking at the water cycle, we were able to identify the various processes that the water goes through. So in the process of viewing the processes that the states that water goes through, it is also important for us to look at the water management. So what is water management? Water management simply refers to the activity of developing, distributing, and the optimum use of water resources under the refined water policies and regulations. So you are going to develop, you are going to distribute, and you are going to optimally use the water that is available on the earth's surface, but there is water policies and regulation that is going to guide you on the various activities that you engage in the process of all those activities that are being carried out. So the first water management activity that we are going to look at is the As we are looking at storing water in dams, it is important to note that the larger part of Australia is dry. And the larger part of Australia being dry, it means that the rain that falls on the earth's surface in the larger part of the country is not evenly distributed. So since it is not evenly distributed, then it means there has to be a mechanism that has to be put in place in order to store this water for future use. So the mechanism that was put into place is construction of dams. So we find that the larger part of Australia has so many dams. These dams are simply used to collect water So the dams constructed are used to collect rainwater, and the rainwater is stored for future use. So these dams that have been constructed are very much important in that the water that has been collected can be used for various activities, such as the animals in the farm can use these for drinking. The same water can be used for irrigation and various other activities. So the small dams that are available are majorly used for the animal feeds, that is, the animal use them for the purposes of drinking. Then the water is also used in some part for irrigation purposes. But on the other hand, we have large dams that are constructed. The large dams constructed are majorly used for industrial purposes. Apart from the industrial purposes, we are having some households in the households in urban centers that use the water in the dams for various activities in the house. So we discovered that the dams that have been constructed are very much useful in that the rainwater is collected in the dams, then it is stored for future use. The water that has been stored can be used for various activities depending with how much water has been collected. So small dams will provide water for kettles. Then we are having the water can also be used for irrigation purposes. Then we have the large dams that have been constructed, provides water for industrial purposes and some household purposes in urban centers. So we are having the water in dams being managed in that given manner. Dams definitely interrupt the water cycle as a process. Why? Because the water that is collected in the dams does not flow into the rivers. And since the water does not flow into the rivers, then it means surface runoff has been interrupted. So we find that surface runoff has been interrupted, and at the same time, percolation process is also interrupted. But we have some parts of the dam, the water that is appearing on the surface of the dam can undergo evaporation process. But where the dam is very deep, the dam has been constructed and it is very deep, then it means very little of evaporation will take place. And if any, then it means it takes a very long period of time. So you discover that construction of dams definitely interferes with the process of water cycle. Another water management activity we have as we are looking at water, we've looked at an activity of irrigation, that the water that is collected in the dams can be used for irrigation purposes. What is irrigation? Irrigation is simply a practice of agriculture that requires you to provide the water for the plants in cases where the plants do not get enough water from the rainfall. So you are providing water through maybe pipes. You are providing the water through pumps. You are providing the water through the ditches. So this is not the rainwater, but this is water that you are providing manually because maybe the rainwater is not enough for the given crops that are available in that given region. So what happens is you have to provide the water maybe through pipes, pumps, or ditches so that this plant is able to get the water it requires for its activities. So in this process, we have various types of irrigation that are practiced in Australia. We have two types that we are going to look at. So we have two types of irrigation, that is splash irrigation and flood irrigation. So we look at the first type of irrigation. I'm sorry, it is spray irrigation and not splash. So we have two types of irrigation, that is spray irrigation and flood irrigation. So we look at spray irrigation. So when you're talking about spray irrigation, we are talking about spray irrigation, then what we mean is this, that you are spraying water. And in order for you to spray this water, then we have a pump. So what happens is the pump forces some small droplets of water into the air. So we are having water forcing small droplets of water So a pump forces small droplets of water, then this water falls on the soil. The droplets of water that have been forced by the pump falls on the soil, and after they fall on the soil, what will happen is the water will percolate. So we are having a pump forcing small droplets of water into the air. Then this water falls on the soil. The water then percolates into the soil. Once it percolates into the soil, then what happens is the roots of the plant takes in the water. Then the water moves up the plant all the way to the leaves, where it undergoes the transpiration process. So the spray irrigation, we are simply talking about a pump forcing out small droplets of water into the air. So it lands on the soil. Then after it has landed on the soil, percolation process takes place. The roots takes up the water from the soil. Then the water moves up the plant to the leaves, where it ends up transpirating the water. So we find that the transpiration process then takes place on the leaves of that given plant. So what happens is the water that has been irrigated through the spray irrigation is then brought back to the atmosphere through the transpiration process. It is important for us to get to know the difference between the spray irrigation and the rainfall. Rainfall also falls on the surface of the earth as small droplets of water. Spray irrigation, we are having small droplets of water being forced out by the pump. But what is the difference between spray irrigation and rainfall? When rainfall falls, what happens is rainfall falls when it is cloudy, and apart from that, the humidity in the atmosphere is very high. So we say that the air is humid. So rainfall falls when it is cloudy and humid at the same time. So what happens is the temperatures are low. And being the fact that the temperatures are low, then it means the rate of transpiration is reduced. But what is happening to spray irrigation? Spray irrigation is taking place when we do not have enough water in the soil. So spray irrigation is taking place when there is no clouds and at the same time the humidity is low. So what is happening is that as spray irrigation is taking place, you find that a lot of water is being lost into the atmosphere because the temperatures are high and humidity is low at the same time. So a lot of water is then lost into the atmosphere through evaporation. So we find that when rainfall is falling, evaporation and transpiration rate is low, but spray irrigation takes place when evaporation, at the same time, evaporation and other rates of transpiration are also high because humidity is low and temperatures are high. So it means that the rate of evaporation and rate of transpiration at the same time will be high. So that is the difference between the spray irrigation and rainfall. The other type of irrigation we have is flood irrigation. So with flood irrigation, what happens is, if this is the piece of land we have, then we dig up channels in the piece of the land so that I'm having furrows in between the land. So these channels, what happens is you release water into the channel. So the channels are filled up with water. So once the channels have been filled up with water, the water then percolates into the soil or the land. So we are having water percolating into the soil. This water that has percolated from the channels, the water percolates into the soil. Then it means the plants that are here will then pick up this water from the roots, and the water is then moved up the plant onto the leaves and stems so that the transpiration process then takes place. So what is the difference between the flood irrigation and spray irrigation? In spray irrigation, we are having a pump that is forcing out water. So we are having a pump forcing out water. It is forcing out small droplets of water. But with the flood irrigation, you are having some channels that have been constructed. So you have channels constructed, then the channels are filled up with water. Then since the channels are filled up with water, the water then percolates into the soil. So from there, we discover that at this point of the flood irrigation, what is happening is that percolation process is encouraged into the soil. Then the plant will pick up the soil through the roots all the way to the leaves and the barks, then transpiration process takes place. But at the same time, if the channels and the soil are left exposed, so if you leave the channel exposed, you leave the soil exposed, then it means the evaporation rate is encouraged. So water will evaporate from the channels that are having water. At the same time, water will evaporate from the soil. So evaporation process will be high when you are having channels that are exposed or the soil that is exposed. So it will encourage the evaporation process. So those are the two types of irrigation that we have. Another management activity of water we have another activity that is engaged in the process of water management is moving water around. Moving water around is a practice whereby you are moving water from the places where it is in plenty to places where it does not have enough water. So what is happening is we are having this region. The region has a lot of water. The water is in plenty. And since the region has excess water, we have another region that is completely, or it is not having enough water. So since this region has not enough water, what will happen is we move this water from the region where it is in plenty to this region where there is no enough water. So in the process of that, then we say we are moving the water around. So this practice has been carried out in Australia. An example is the Snowy Mountain Scheme. Snowy Mountain Scheme has applied this technique, and this is how the technique has been applied in the Snowy Mountain Scheme. So what has happened is we have the Snowy River. So we have the Snowy River. This Snowy River is being fed by water and snow. Where is this water coming from and snow? This water and snow is being obtained from the Snowy Mountain. So we find that the water and snow, this water at a mountain, we all know that there is a lot of rainfall that is being experienced on the windward side of that given mountain. So we find that the rain that falls in the mountain together with the snow then flows into the Snowy River. And after the water and the rain and the snow has flowed into the Snowy River, then tunnels, dams, and we are having water has reached the Snowy River. Then what has happened is there are tunnels, then we have dams, and we are also having the pipes that have been diverted from the Snowy River, and after they have been diverted from the Snowy River, this water has been channeled into the dry areas. So after it has been channeled to the dry areas, what has happened is, in these dry areas, the water that has been brought in this area then has made it possible for this region to carry out agricultural practice through the process of irrigation. So you find that water is flowing in the Snowy River. This water that is flowing in the Snowy River is channeled in from the snowy mountain, such that you are having rainfall and snow in the snowy mountain. Then this water is channeled into the Snowy River. Then from the Snowy River, we have tunnels, dams, and pipes that have been constructed such that these the tunnels, dams, and pipes are directed to the dry areas. And in the dry areas, due to the water that has been available, it has been made available from the tunnels, dams, and pipes that have been constructed from this river, we find that it is now possible to carry out agriculture through the irrigation process. So this is the process of moving water from a region where it is in plenty to a region where the water is not sufficient. So we find that this process is enabling us to get the water even in regions where it is very much dry. So what is the effect of moving water from one region to the other? So what is happening is this. We are having water on the snowy mountain that has been moved all the way to the dry region. So it has been moved in this dry region. Then after it has been moved to the dry region, irrigation takes place and plants are able to grow up in that given region. So these plants that are growing up in this region will definitely take up the water through the roots. Then the water will move all the way to the leaves and barks of that given mountain. Then the water will be made available in the atmosphere through the transpiration process. At the same time, this water is in the process of it moving from one region to another. We are having water in the river, we have water in the dams, we have water in tunnels, and so on. It can also be returned back into the atmosphere through the evaporation process. So we find that this will ensure that there is continuous supply of water into the atmosphere. The next water management activity we have so using stormy water is another water management activity we have. What do you mean by storm? A storm is simply a situation whereby you are having a lot of water that is on the surface. So we have a lot of water on surface. Then we say that the situation is storm. So we are having this water that has been available on the surface, a lot of it on the surface of the earth. So you find that in the recent developments, there are a lot of constructions that has taken place. So with this construction, we find that people have ended up using concrete in the process of the construction. We have also materials such as the bitumen that are used. So we find that the soil or the ground initially could have been permeable. So initially the ground could have been permeable in that when it rains, the water could easily just seep underground. But these construction processes, the building that has taken place, has made this ground to be replaced by the impermeable concrete and bitumen. So since the ground has been made impermeable, then it means if rainfall falls, then this water is not going to seep underground. So the impermeable concrete and bitumen will simply prevent percolation. So since percolation has been interfered with, then it means that there is a lot of water that will appear on the surface. So when it rains, water will fall from the roofs. We are having the rooftops. Water will be obtained from the roads that have been constructed and many other constructions that have been made that makes the land impermeable. So you are having all this water running on the surface as surface runoff. So since there is a lot of surface runoff, then it results into formation of the stormy water. So how important is this stormy water that has been formed on the surface of the earth? Or what are the effects of the stormy water on the surface of the earth? So we are having the stormy water that has been formed, and it has been given so many uses. The stormy water that is available on the earth's surface is engaged in various activities. For example, in some parts of Sydney, we are having the Sydney suburbs. So in some parts of Sydney suburbs where a lot of stormy water is available, what is happening is the water has been collected, and this water that has been collected, it has been put into tanks. So we are having the stormy water collected, then it is kept or stored in tanks, and after that the harmful substances are removed. So we've collected the water and stored them in tanks. So what happens is the harmful substances are removed from this water. After removing the harmful substances from the stormy water, what happens is the water that is now left behind is used in irrigation process. So this water that is left behind, it is used to irrigate the parkland, and apart from that, it is also used to irrigate the sports fields available in that area, and in addition, it is used to irrigate the trees in that given city. So you find the water that has been collected. This was just the stormy water that was available in this suburb. So this stormy water that is available, what is happening is it is collected and stored in the tank, then harmful substances are removed, and after the harmful substances are removed, then it is used in irrigation of those various activities that we've mentioned. So you find that the water that was just running on the surface is now becoming useful in one way or another. The second example we are having of the stormy water that has been put into practice we are having the city of Orange in New South Wales. What has happened in this city is that some of the waters that is flowing on the surface it is captured, and once it has been captured, then it is transferred to the nearby dam. So around this city we are having a swamp. This swamp is known as the Black So we have the Black Man's Swamp. So this water that is around this city, we are having the city of Orange in the New South Wales, has a Black Man's Swamp Creek around it. So the stormy water is available in this given region. Then this stormy water that is available is then captured, and after it is captured, it is transferred. So it is captured and transferred to a nearby dam. So we are having a dam that is nearby, that this water that is captured from this region is transferred into it. Then after it is transferred into that dam, we simply said that earlier on that a dam is used to collect water, then it stores it for the future purposes. So this dam collects the water, and after it has collected the water, then it means this water that is available in this dam will then increase the availability of water in that given region. So once the water is available in the given city, then it means it can be used for various activities. So we are just having water, stormy water that is available, then the stormy water is captured and transferred into a dam. And once it has been transferred into this dam, then the water is made available and sufficient enough for the city to use for the various activities. The last example of stormy water that we have that has been put into practice is in Baldman Swamp. This is just a natural wetland area. A swamp is simply an area that is covered by water. So this is naturally a wetland area. So being naturally a wetland area, then what happens is that this wetland area is very much important for various activities. First, it is used as a habitat, being a habitat for a variety of birds and animals. A habitat is simply a home. So we are talking about this swamp providing a home to a variety of birds and animals. So as it provides a home to these birds and animals, it means that it makes them comfortable on this surface. Then next, the Baldman swamp is also has 3 main drainage channels. So it has drainage channels. These drainage channels are used to carry the surface runoff water from the city streets and into the swamp. So you are having the channels that is carrying water from the streets all the way to the swamp. So what does that mean? It means that it makes the streets to be much comfortable because the drainage of this water from the streets will enable the swift movement on that given street and hence remove the stormy waters from that given street. Another water management activity we have is what is referred to as a rain garden. So rain gardens are simply small scale way of dealing with stormy waters. So we are having stormy waters on the surface, but now we need to deal with them. So rain gardens are simply the small scale way of dealing with the stormy waters. So how does these rain gardens help us in water management activities? So this is what happens. When you are having stormy water, the stormy water is channeled into the rain garden bed. So you are having stormy water being channeled into the rain garden's bed. So you are having a bed on the rain garden. So if this is our rain garden, so if this is a region where you are having the stormy waters, we have a pipe that will channel the stormy waters onto the base. So it is channeled onto the base of this rain garden, and after it has been channeled onto the base of the rain garden, the bed of this rain garden is having a layer of at the bed we have a layer of sand. So we are having the bed of this channel. So we have this layer of sand, and the purpose of the layer of sand at the bed of the rain garden is simply to filter the water. So this sand at the bed filters that given water so that it improves the quality of the water. Even though the water will not be very much clean to use for drinking purposes and other activities, but it has been filtered. The water has already been filtered in that process. And once it has been filtered, what will happen is the water will be used for activities in that given garden. The plants that are available in that garden will pick up the water, and these plants that are going to pick up this water in this given garden will then pick up the water from the roots. The water is then moved through the plant all the way to the leaves and the barks of that given tree, where it will be transpirated into the air. So we find that the rain garden helps us improve the quality of the stormy waters that has been collected from the land. So this stormy water will then be used for the activities that are pertained in that rain garden. Finally, the last management activity we have is changing vegetation. When we were looking at the water cycle, we said that there are various factors that affect the water cycle. And one of the factors that was affecting the water cycle was vegetation. And we looked at vegetation, and the vegetations are of different types. We have those vegetations that are tall, like trees. We have vegetations that are short, like the shrubs, and so on. So depending with which type of vegetation is available in that given region. For instance, if this region, somebody decides to plant trees, what is the effect of planting trees in a region? One of the effects of planting trees in a region is that the trees will take up water from the soil much easily, and as they take up water from the soil much easily, what will happen is there is increased rate of transpiration. And since transpiration rate has been increased, then it means the water vapor is also increased in the atmosphere. Alternatively, we can have, instead of this person deciding to plant trees, remember we are talking about changing a vegetation of that given region. So a person might decide to plant trees, or alternatively, this person can decide to cut down the trees. If trees are cut down, what will happen? Trees have been cut down, so it means the land has been left bare. There is nothing to hold the soil. At the same time, there is nothing that will prevent these waters that is moving on the surface. There is nothing that will hold the water on the surface so that percolation process takes place. So what happens is there is a lot of surface runoff. And as much as there is a lot of surface runoff, the plant has been left bare, the land has been left bare, and since the land is bare, then it means no transpiration is taking place. But instead, what is being encouraged, if there is a lot of surface runoff and there is no transpiration, it means the soils that are available in that given region will simply be exposed to soil erosion. So what is happening is this: a region that a person will decide to plant a lot of vegetation will hence encourage that a region has a lot of vegetation. What will happen is, if there are a lot of vegetation in a region, if there are a lot of vegetation in a region, then if rain falls, this vegetation will hold the water for a long time. And if they hold the water for a long time, then it means percolation process will also be encouraged, because if water is remaining stagnant at a given place for a long time, then it is able to seep into the soil. And once it seeps into the soil, then we say percolation process has been encouraged. Then at the same time, once water is available in the soil, then the plants can pick up that given water. And once the plants have picked up the water through the roots, or they absorb the water through the roots, what will happen is that the plants will have the water, and this water will move up the plant. So the water moves up the plant to the leaves and the banks of that given leaf, and once it moves up the plant, then the water will be available for transpiration process. But where there are rare vegetation or the land is bare, where we have no vegetation and the land is bare, then even the little moisture that is available in the soil is exposed to a lot of evaporation. So the little moisture that is available in the soil is exposed to evaporation, and at the same time we have a lot of surface runoff that is taking place. So since there is a lot of evaporation and a lot of surface runoff, then it means this brings about an effect in that given area. So as much as we need to change the vegetation of a given area, maybe at some point in life you will have to carry out an activity whereby you are required to change the vegetation that is available in that given area. First, you need to look at what are the effects of me changing this vegetation from whatever is there to another different type of vegetation. So if you find that whatever you will bring about, whatever change of vegetation you are bringing about will bring about a development in the availability of the water in that given region, then it is good to carry it out. But if we discover that the activity you are going to carry out is going to be much disastrous compared to whatever was initially existing in that given region, then it is advisable to leave it at that given point. So we are looking at the earth resources as a topic in general. So we are looking at the various types of the resources that we are having, and these types of resources are either natural, they are either renewable or non-renewable. Then we've looked at the sources of earth resources, and these sources of earth resources that we've looked at are also either renewable or non-renewable, and we talked about renewable as those resources or sources that can be used repeatedly without depletion. Non-renewable are those that are going to be used repeatedly. They are going to be used, but they are not replaced. So as we are looking at it, one of the most important resource that we had on the earth's surface was water. We talked about no organism on the earth's surface is able to survive for a long time without water. And that is why we've dealt on the water resource so much, in that we've looked at the water cycle, and now we've looked at the water management. So what are we saying? We are all in need of this water as a resource. And being the fact that we need this water as a resource, what does it require us to do? We are required to take very good care of this water as a resource so that it is not depleted and we end up not having enough water on the earth's surface. In the first place, we've already said that the water that is available on the earth's surface for use is very minimum. So if there are any chances of us managing this water so that it is available for use on the earth's surface and it is not depleted, then we can carry out that given activity in order to ensure that the water is continuously available for use for the various organisms on the earth's surface. So that is all we have to talk about on the resources that we have on the earth's surface and their various management activities. Thank you.